appreciative of it, and we're really looking forward to this campaign. So I'm Isaac Escamilla. I'm a junior from Dallas, Texas, and I've been involved in VSG ever since my freshman year. I was lucky enough to be elected Sutherland House president. Last year I was a campus services co-chair, and this year I was elected as an arts and science senator. But I'm not only involved in VSG, I have a life outside of student government. So I've also on speakers committee. That's been a really rewarding experience for me. I've been a view scepter, and this year I serve as a Commons RA. But thankfully I have a great running mate in Lucy Calderon, and we're really excited to be running. The reason we're running is we think we have the ideas and the reforms to really unlock the potential of this campus. And we really want to focus our platform on three main areas. First is enhancing campus life. Before spring break, we had the opportunity to talk with a number of administrators to run our ideas through. And one that really resonated with, I think, students and administrators was expanding the Taste of Nashville program to include Harris Teeter, the grocery store, Tin Roof, and a number of local businesses as well. I think the second area we really want to focus on is empowering student organizations. So right now $50,000 of VSG's budget is allocated for internal funding and internal programming. So if there's a way for us to fund organizations that have events and can improve the campus experience, that's what we're passionate about. And lastly, thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. All right, John.
Hey guys, we also want to thank you for being here. Like he said, my name's John Tucker and I'm running for VSG president. Just a little bit about me. I'm from Tucker, Georgia. And I'm involved in a few things around campus. I've been RA, been a view scepter twice, been on a couple of ASB trips, and I even serve right now on the IFC executive board. But really, what I'm most passionate about is my work as chief of staff in VSG. Like myself, Jess is also super involved on campus, ranging from things to dance marathon and Tridelt. She, like myself, is very passionate about student involvement, and especially VSG, as we have both spent 3 full years as members of VSG, and we really care about the organization, as she served as a director of programming this year and has done a great job with our co-sponsorship program. I think the heart of our vision comes really with our slogan, Empower You, Empower VU. What we're really about is empowering student organizations, empowering our great student leaders, empowering our great thinkers to really come up with ideas and make this campus a much better place. I know we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of our platform and stuff like that through the course of the debate, so I'll kind of save some of that stuff. But I want you guys to know that everything that I say that I can do and that our team says that we can do is completely possible. I met with 8 different administrators, vetting every single platform point. I even had a couple just run-in meetings with administrators today just to make sure everything was lining up right. But I really think I know that we can do everything that we want to do. And also, these guys, both to me, my left and right, are good guys. But I think what really sets me apart as a candidate is the ability to actually get done. I have valuable relationships with both student leaders and administrators, and I really thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Peter Hernandez, and I'm honored to be running for your student body president. Want to again echo the sentiments that Isaac and JT hit on, and thank the Hustler, Vanderbilt Television, and VSG for putting on this program tonight. I think this is really a great effort and a good use of VSG time and efforts. Also, I want to thank Isaac and JT for sharing their thoughts tonight as well. When I sat down and decided to run for student body president, I knew that win or lose, I was going to base my campaign on things that I was passionate about. And I'm passionate about really uniting the community and anchoring the future. That's our slogan. And so what that means is that VSG's never really taken this effort to reach out and unite the campus and unite leaders and really give them true empowerment. And so we believe that we can do that through different things like a leadership council. And we also believe that we can take this longer-term approach and focus on initiatives beyond a year and beyond the 8 months that we really have to make a difference. So with that long-term approach, we plan to hit on a variety of issues to make a greater impact on the Nashville community and the Vanderbilt community, so we can really get sustainable change and a great structure for future presidents that come down the road and future students that are coming to Vanderbilt. And that's a big message that Kristen and I want to push this evening. Certainly, we're glad to see everybody here. We are thrilled to be in this race. And again, Isaac and John Tucker, both good friends of mine. And I think that ultimately, I just encourage you all to hear out every single platform point that we have, and at the end of the day, make the best decision for not only the current Vanderbilt, but for the future Vanderbilt. Again, excited to be here tonight, and thank you guys for the time.
Thank you, candidates. So with that, we'll move into the traditional round of questioning. As a reminder, each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. These questions are general and will be asked of each candidate in turn. And we'll alternate order up a little bit so nobody has to go first all the time. So with that, I'll ask my first question. We'll start with Isaac again, proceed with John, and then Peter. So, what is the highest priority item on each of your platforms if you had to identify a single one?
Sure. Well, I think the most important item I think on our platform is really empowering student organizations. I think right now, unfortunately, there's this perception that people don't know what VSG actually is. Important. And secondly, we think it's important that we reform the ACFE process. Right now, a majority of organizations get their funding through that, and it's a very tedious and a very difficult process. So if there's a way to make that simplify it through a monthly audit system that I've talked about with the current chair of ACFE that would make the process less arduous for student organizations, we think that's something that's going to add value to your experience at the end of the day. Thanks.
Thank you, Isaac. John?
All right. One platform point that I'm very excited about is our platform point to enforce the dead week. Right now, the handbook says that we're not supposed to have any tests, quizzes, project or papers on that last week before exams, and we really feel like that a lot of times that's not being followed, and we know that we can hold the administration accountable and do the right thing, which is to let you guys have that time to study so that we can all achieve academic success and do very well on our exams. I don't have any more to say about that. That's just kind of what the platform point is. There's no need to talk more. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, John. One note is, please, audience, I know everybody's very excited to be here and excited to support their candidates, but can we hold applause to a minimum, please? We are tight on time, and I'd like to give each of the candidates as much time to speak as possible. So with that, Peter.
Sure. I think the biggest platform point that Kristen and I are running on is we want to transform VSG to be an advocate for the student body. And so certainly a part of that is uniting the student body so that we can best represent every student's needs at Vanderbilt. We want to connect students with administrators so that we can put you all in a position to talk to administrators about things you care about and things you're passionate about. At the end of the day, myself, John Tucker, and Isaac, we're only a few people. And even our teams and even the people that we have are only a fraction of the campus. But what we can do is unite the campus together and create true and meaningful points from there and have discussions about issues that are relevant. And finally transform VSG into something that's more than programming. but is really advocating for academic policy changes, is advocating for athletic policy changes, getting involved with Greek life and connecting those people, connecting those leaders to the administrators. That's where we want to be. That's where we think that we can best represent you all, is in being a linchpin between your needs and the administration. And so that's what Chris and I's biggest platform is in a nutshell.
Thank you. Next question. In the past, it seems that VSG has seemed sort of focused on enhancing student services on campus and making material gains. The previous administration has done things like that, like bringing food trucks to campus every weekend. But the organization, throughout its lifetime, has largely remained silent on campus issues, like the recent rash of hazing allegations and the non-discrimination policy that we've been talking about for the past year or so. So what role do each of you think that Vanderbilt student government should be taking in addressing these issues and in speaking for the student body on these issues at large, especially as it relates to the administration? So we'll start with Peter and move from right to left, ending with Isaac.
Yeah, so I guess I can elaborate a little bit more on what I just said, because that's exactly what Kristen and I are running on. We're running on, less programming and transferring that programming to organizations that are better suited for it, such as Vanderbilt Programming Board, and such as residential education, that can do those things very well currently and have infrastructure in place to take care of those needs. Again, what we think VSG should be, and the purpose of student government as a whole, is to advocate for the needs of students unequivocally. And that has certainly, as you alluded to, been the lapse of Vanderbilt student government. And so that's something that Kristen and I are committed to doing through things like a leadership council that brings together, Greek life leaders, non-Greek life leaders, members from VUSEPT, all these different great campus organizations to talk about, how we're going to transform at Vanderbilt. It's a great time to be at Vanderbilt, but a lot is happening with the all-comers policy. A lot is happening with the future of tailgating and other things, and we want to advocate for the needs of students. But in order to do that, we need to unite the community. And so we're determined to get a great coalition of students behind us so that we can best come to the administration with all these different ideas that you have. At the end of the day, I could go out and promise all these different platform points, but we haven't been able to hear everybody's needs. And being president and vice president, we're going to be able to hear out those needs, and we're going to go accomplish them.
If I can follow up a little bit, do you think Vanderbilt student government should be leading conversations on campus? That is, do you think Vanderbilt student government should be speaking and representing the student body's opinion at large?
I mean, if not, then what is your student government really for? I mean, at the end of the day, the Dean of Students office could put in place Vandy vans, and they can put in place Commodore cards and things of that nature. Those happen at every other school that don't necessarily have a powerful student government. But we can be a powerful student government. We can be the voice of students and, again, take on those issues and advocate for students' opinions. And that's what we want to do, and that's what different committees and councils that we want to put together would 100% establish. So I think, to answer your question, yes, it is in representing students, because you all are here to get the most out of your Vanderbilt education, but also the most out of your Vanderbilt experience through community interactions, through social interactions, and Chris and I are the best leaders to help accomplish that.
Thank you. John?
First off, I want to start out by saying that as far as doing some of that stuff, student government is actually already working on a lot of that stuff. Actually, there currently exists a student leader summit that brings together major student leaders. Once a month, they meet with Dean Bandis. Mayank Bishnoi is actually the president of the student leader summit that currently exists. And we are working on doing a lot of these things, having these important conversations, because obviously, student government represents your voice, but we need a lot of input from the students to make that happen. That's why these conversations and these things are currently happening, to make sure that VSG knows exactly what the student wants and exactly where different communities on campus are, because we're not just one homogenous community. We have a lot of different interests and causes, and sometimes those are conflicting. And at that point, there needs to be a group discussion on those sorts of things. And on our platform, we definitely have rant boxes and town halls and different stuff to address a lot of those issues that you have brought up. So thank you.
Isaac?
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely important that, VSG take a leadership role, when it comes to those big decisions on campus. A tenet of our platform is is reaching out to those student organizations, that might not happen right now. When Lucy and I were formulating our platform, we reached out to as many student organization leaders as possible. And I think right now that relationship or that avenue for communication doesn't exist. And I think Vanderbilt, student government should be the avenue where those concerns are voiced. We should be hosting, town hall meetings or, creating a roundtable where we have all those campus partners, whether it was with the all-comers policy or, with hazing that's happened in this past, semester, where we can talk it out and we can have a legitimate conversation about the issues. And, we're not leading from behind or letting the administration, take the role of mediator or facilitator. Because at the end of the day, sometimes we may disagree with the administration. And I think it's important for us to voice our concerns and state, sometimes, we may disagree or we disagree with the way, a policy or a process was enacted.
Thank you. This next question is getting a little bit more specific in dealing with that. So there have been two fairly publicized drug busts and arrests made on this campus from the past 2 months or so. Do you think that Vanderbilt student government has a role in either changing policy or enacting policy through the administration to tackle issues as large as drug use on campus or drug regulation on campus? And we'll start with John, move to Peter, and then end with Isaac.
Yeah, obviously, drugs and other things like that look very horrible for, for Vanderbilt as a whole and the communities that the drugs are found in. So, basically to tackle some of these issues, right now we have a health and safety and services committee, and they're working on a campaign. They're working on a campaign that is Work Smart, Play Smart, and this campaign is set to roll out in the near future, next semester. We're going to test some stuff out at the end of this semester, but at the beginning of next year, we're really excited about trying to change some of the cultural aspects regarding the work hard, play hard mentality that we all can see is pretty evident at Vanderbilt. But really not trying to, we're not trying to take, the fun out of anything, but just the VSG as a whole. We want to, VSG is going to promote having fun, but also staying safe, because there's nothing wrong with also having fun and staying safe at the same time. So, thanks.
Peter?
So I think a lot of those events that you alluded to tell me one thing, and that there's a major disconnect between current administration and student leaders. And so to bridge that, we really need to empower leaders and connect leaders to people like the provost, to people like the dean of students. And one way that Kristen and I want to do that is by encouraging student leaders such as the IFC president, such as the IFC vice president, Pan-Hellenic presidents, to come to meetings with us to act proactively. I think that's one of the biggest, to me, things that VSG can do is act proactively for students. Right now, we're not doing that. Everything that's done is reactive. And really, I think the power in, change is, and the power in prevention is acting proactively. And so we're going to push, for student leaders to connect to administrators and really have conversations and meaningful conversations about what their concerns are, about the people that they represent in their organizations. And then from there, we can address issues like drugs on campus. We can address issues like tailgating. But only until we make that connection and bridge that disconnect are we really going to be able to effectively achieve anything. And that's where student government's role can truly be. And that's what Kristen and I are advocating for unequivocally.
Thank you. Isaac?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's the role of VSG to be involved in, policy that affects students in their everyday lives. And I would not, purely leave it at drug policy, but also, I think a policy that affects most students, on a weekly basis is the alcohol policy. I'm an RA on the Commons, and I've definitely seen how, the changes on Greek Row have affected, alcohol consumption on the Commons. And I think we need to have real, frank conversations about, the effectiveness of the alcohol policy here on campus and whether or not it really is benefiting our students, and whether or not there are other policies, at other universities that are effective, and they're are addressing, issues such as students, going to hospitals and, having a much higher alcohol intensity than in previous years. I think this is something that, is a very valid, part of our job as students, is to really advocate for the real issues that are affecting us in our day-to-day lives. And whether that is involving, presidents from not only, the Greek community, but from interfaith and the multicultural, the Multicultural Leadership Council, the more people we have involved in these discussions, the more legitimate our solutions are going to be. So I think, I totally agree.
Thank you. Again, turning to another specific instance, reports of hazing, as I mentioned earlier, have been high, especially in recent weeks within Greek life. So do you feel like, and several of your platforms actually, you all talk about empowering student leaders, and several of your platforms connect leaders, such as Greek leaders, to other student leaders on campus and allow them to make greater change on campus happen. So with that being said, do you think infractions like hazing and things like that within Greek life or other student organizations should have an impact on those organizations' ability to participate within VSG or your new platform initiatives? And we'll start with Isaac and move from left to right.
I think that's an interesting point because I think as students here, we all make mistakes. And I don't think it's fair for us to be, including or excluding people in terms of, what we can do as a student government based on, a mistake that might have been made by, a few individuals that tends to be, grouped with, an organization or a certain, governing body of campus. I think, a more valid solution would be for us to, really reach out and see how we can address those issues in a more transparent and in a more reform-minded way. Because I think there are a lot of campus issues right now that aren't being addressed. And, excluding people or trying to, villainize or victimize, I don't think is a way for us to move forward and really try and find solutions. Because at the end of the day, we represent everybody, and not, a specific segment of campus.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I currently serve on the IFC Executive Board. So, we just actually today, we had our IFC Executive Board meeting, and we are trying to address some of these things like hazing, particularly in the IFC community, but, in any kind of community where there are problems, those discussions are being had. And so, me and Jess's platform, Empower You, Empower VU, is not about taking over those things and doing it for them, but we want to help those people to deal with whatever issues are affecting their particular community. Because not all issues affect every community on campus, but we want to make sure that as VSG, we can provide the resources necessary to help any community here. I'll just use the example, obviously, because I had that meeting earlier today about IFC. Right now, the IFC Executive Board and all the presidents of all the IFC chapters have heard this as well. There's going to be a consultant coming in. We really are looking internally to find the best possible policy regarding hazing, something that can both serve students and do the purpose of keeping all students safe. So I really think that these groups are already working on these things. VSG just needs to help them get the resources and put the best leaders in the best possible situations to succeed.
Thank you. Peter?
So I just want to make sure I understand your question so I can give the best answer here. You were talking about specific incidents of hazing and what are, if we're connecting them to leaders, will we no longer connect them to leaders if that happens?
Not necessarily, but do you? That's something you could do, but is there a way VSG could deal with problems like this that arise within other organizations? Does VSG have a role to lead and sort of influence other organizations in that manner?
Okay, thanks for the clarification. I think definitely VSG has a role to, again, help connect leaders so that they can see directly what the administration's concerns are, because the administration has concerns about hazing. I mean, overall hazing is a national issue. I mean, I'm from Florida, and at Florida A&M, there was a student that died because of hazing. So ultimately, this is a big administrative concern, and so if we can connect, leaders of IFC and, across campus in general in regards to other issues to these administrators beforehand in order to, again, proactively find solutions to prevent this. Certainly there have been some initiatives, in IFC to prevent hazing, but I think we can do a greater job as a student body being the liaison and being the linchpin that connects, again, these organizations to the people that we meet with on a monthly or weekly basis. The VSG president and vice president meet with the chancellor, they meet with the provost, they meet with the dean of students, and that's really where the time is not being utilized, and we're not getting the most productivity out of those meetings because we're not connecting the leaders of our campus to those people. And once that starts to get done, and once we start to attack things proactively, then again, we're going to get this change that has, that puts us leaps and bounds forward, not only now, but in the future as well.
Thank you. So the final general question to each of you is going to be, can you each sort of describe in detail your role in VSG this year and some of your accomplishments in VSG this year, and how you plan to establish a working relationship with administrators should you be elected president? And with that, we'll start with Peter and move from right to left.
Certainly. So I served as the Director of First Year Relations this year from the beginning of the school year till around winter break. And in that time period, one of the biggest things that I was tasked with from JT and from Dean Wieslow, who I worked with a lot, was establishing a representative coalition in terms of House presidents, vice presidents, secretaries, and commodores. And I think if you look around this room, you'll see a lot of House presidents, you'll see a lot of vice presidents, a lot of secretaries, a lot of commodores that are here. And that's a diverse group of people, not only racially, but also in terms of schools that they're involved in. And again, with people that are elected, I can't necessarily say that I had an overarching influence in getting that done, but there's a way that, my job was to push and promote the different things that VSG does and the different VSG involvements. And through that, I think we appealed to a variety of different student leaders that were coming straight from high school. And so getting those students integrated into Vanderbilt student government, and so that they can make an impact on Vanderbilt, is something that I've done. And I was, in charge of over 50 different student leaders at the first year level. And so I worked with Dean Bandis, Dean Wieslow, and again with John Tucker and Mary Claire to establish a lot of different initiatives. And we set up dinners for first year students where they were with professors and had a lot of networking going on. And so certainly it was more of a programming focus, but it was more of a programming role. But that doesn't mean that Kristen and I aren't suited to come in and tackle the tougher initiatives and work with administrators in any capacity.
John?
This year I served as Chief of Staff, which basically puts me in charge of all internal operations in VSG, oversaw the budget, oversaw the first year stuff that Peter was talking about. But really, some of the stuff that I'm most proud of is the basically the optional committee work that I've done with, one, the Green Fund, and two, the MLK Day Committee. With the Green Fund, we just allocated $75,000 to projects that students came up with, and we advocated for them, and they got funding of $75,000 to make Vanderbilt a more sustainable campus. I couldn't be more proud of all those students that turned in projects for that. And also with that project, we, because of these projects are designed to save energy, they also save money. So we got the administration to consent to that 30% of those proceeds would roll over and make the fund bigger for next year. So that Green Fund is going to multiply over the years and eventually get really big. So we're really, really excited about that. Also, I had the chance to work with the MLK Day Committee to make sure that all the events from MLK Day were publicized, that they went smoothly, and that people could enjoy that day off and really gain a really great experience from that. Like I said before, the role of Chief of Staff is really internal, so not too much work with initiatives, but I did work a lot as an executive board member with administrators. Thank you.
Isaac.
So this year I was elected as one of the 5 arts and science senators, and really the 2 areas I've wanted to focus my time on are issues of transparency and academic issues. So this year I helped bring about a change in the way we sort of describe our co-sponsorship process to, the rest of the Vanderbilt community. There had been numerous complaints from my constituents about the fact that, the co-sponsorship process appeared to be, closed off, that there was no real way to know how this money was allocated. So, even though my bill ended up failing, we did end up getting, a change that would improve the level of transparency in terms of when it comes for us to, fund different student organizations. Additionally, tonight I'm working on another budgetary issue, at the Senate session later tonight that I've helped co-sponsor with the help of the Hustler that would publicize sort of a monthly audit of how we're spending our money. I think it's important for us to know what we're doing and what we're advocating for you guys as students. And lastly, with academics, I've worked to, increase access to tutoring, to help students with, improving the efficiency of OAK, and, we're working on, having your course syllabi integrated with Gmail.
Thank you. So that concludes the general questions. With that, we'll move on to platform-specific questions. Again, as a reminder of the rules, I'll ask each candidate one platform-specific question, and they will have 90 seconds to respond. So we'll begin with John. Compared to the other two candidates sitting here with you, your platform is generally light on structural and operational changes within VSG and consists largely of material initiatives. As the current chief of staff, what aspect of the current administration would you most like to change internally?
Really a lot of the stuff that's happened, as far as structural changes in VSG, a little bit of the history of VSG is that last year we went under a lot of structural changes, and this year has really been a transitional year as far as working out some of the kinks that went on as far as making operations in VSG very efficient. And so we have a lot of stuff in place. At points, we weren't exactly following all of those things, and I really think that, if I were to be elected, that we would just do a good job of holding ourselves accountable to the rules that we already have set in place. With that, you said light on structural changes. What I think I could do most different is actually how we build relationships. And that's hard to put in a specific platform point because I really feel that the important thing is for me to be very visible and just to be very visible and to be building relationships with students. And, that's not exactly a platform point. That's just really something that's in our character and that we really want to do. We really want to reach out. We really care about your voice and helping your voice get to administrators. So that's, how I would say that I think we can do most to change the structure of VSG and how we currently operate. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is for Isaac. So your platform talks about the application of the immunity rule to Greek organizations. So on what grounds do you believe that the immunity rule can be extended to Greek organizations? Have you done any research to ensure that the goal doesn't conflict with national Greek chapter bylaws or extends beyond the scope of Vanderbilt administration's jurisdiction?
Right. And I think this comes back to, what we talked about earlier when it comes to policy changes. And I think something Lucy and I have talked about and have reached out to administrators about is, the effectiveness of our alcohol policy on campus. And in my research, in talking to, the Dean of the Commons, there has been sort of an uptick in terms of, people going to hospitals and the intensity of, alcohol overdoses. So obviously, the system right now, as it isn't effective and is not really stopping students from, engaging in, excessive drinking. So I think this is something we definitely want to explore when it comes to a policy change. And, there are peer institutions that have, way more liberal, alcohol policies than us that have, found it effective. So I think it's definitely something we want to explore.
Have you ensured that this initiative doesn't conflict with any Greek organization bylaws or things like that?
Up to this point, we haven't taken it to, we've met with, Greek presidents, and they're definitely interested in this point. And it's unclear right now whether or not, it would go through all chapters, but a vast majority of chapters have, expressed interest in exploring the idea.
Okay, thank you. John, I'll give you 15 seconds to respond.
Yeah, instituting, unfortunately instituting, as much as we'd love to see the Greek chapters get the immunity rule, it's in direct violation with a lot of nationals policies. So that's just unfortunate, but it's a nice thought. Thanks.
Thank you. This next question is for Peter. Your platform states that you'll create an alumni networking weekend in collaboration with the Student Center for Professional Development. But as was alluded to earlier in the debate, a similar initiative has been planned by the Student Services and Technology Committee by VSG over the course of this year, and it should be fulfilled by the middle of this coming month. In addition, you also advocate for establishing a relevant leadership council, empowering student leaders, as you said earlier, to connect campus leaders with each other, similar to the current Student Leadership Summit that was created by VSG this past fall in collaboration with the Dean of Students Office. So knowing that, were you aware of these current developments, and how do your platform points differ from these or advance these current initiatives?
Sure, great question. So there's a lot of things there. First, on the topic of the alumni networking weekend, one thing that Chris and I want to advocate for is greater collaboration with the Career Center and with Nashville resources. So even though that there's this alumni networking weekend sort of in place and that they're trying to get the symposium and reach out to different people, we think that there can be even a greater reach. I know I have a lot of great connections in the Career Center, and I feel almost indebted to them because I was in finance career mentoring program, which was a program that helped me get an internship at SunTrust for this coming summer. So those sorts of programs and those sorts of connections that I have with the Career Center are things that I think VSG can help facilitate even more so. And I think an alumni weekend would be great to get more alumni coming back, because certainly I don't think the one that is in place right now will necessarily have the broad effect that we want it to have. And then, to allude to the leadership council that you were talking about and touch on that point, we think that there's a disconnect right now with leaders around campus, and that's why a lot of the things are happening. That's why there's, hazing-related incidents. That's why there's drug-related things. Certainly people will do things on their own, and we can't, control everybody, and we don't want to control everybody. But what we want to do is connect student leaders, and I don't think the Leadership Council has done an effective job of doing that, and Chris and I would make a bigger push to get more leaders on that council advocating for bigger things with action plans.
Thank you. That concludes the platform-specific round of questioning. Finally, we'll end with our closing statements. As a reminder, audience questions first. Sorry. So we'll have a short amount of time for audience questions. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand, tell us your name, tell us your college, tell us your year, and please state whether or not you endorse a particular candidate when asking a question. And questions can be asked of any candidate regardless of affiliation. So with that, we'll open the floor to questions. And we'll get a mic to you as well if you'd like to ask a question.
Hi, this is a little loud. I'm Sam Boyette. I'm a freshman in Arts and Sciences, Film Studies major, and I'm on the campaign team with JT and Jess. I have a question for Peter. I wrote it out because it's kind of long. Peter, you talked earlier about your role as Director of First Year Relations last semester, and you said till Christmas break, winter break, excuse me. I just wanted to know, seeing as how the president of VSG is the most demanding position in VSG, obviously, I want to know how you think you could take the time to do this, to lead this role and lead this school, if you couldn't even take the time as Director of First Year Relations since you did resign in December.
Sure, I'd be more than happy to answer, Sam. I think, again, during my time as Director of First Year Relations, I established a great group of 50 individuals, including yourself, and it really helped, empower you to be the best leaders that you could be on Commons. And then, hopefully that translates and we get better retention rates long term with you all staying in VSG and being active leaders on campus. But I think, ultimately, it wasn't necessarily the time that I resigned, even though I know that I sent out an email saying that we were more focused. I was trying to do bigger things for VSG. And there was a lot of, I felt that I was in very much a top-down organization. And it was very tough for me to sort of reach out and get the greater involvement for VSG and get the greater vision for VSG because ultimately I felt VSG could achieve so much, and we weren't there. You may be studying Econ right now, Econ 100, Econ 101, and Buckles might be talking to you about a production possibility frontier, right? And we're not reaching our production possibility frontier because we're not focusing and tackling the tough issues on campus. And once we start doing that, that's when you will really be empowered. That's when all 50 of the first-year leaders will really be empowered. And that's, ultimately, it was the frustration of that led me to a resignation.
Thank you. Next question from the audience.
Hi, my name is Riddick Rao. I'm a freshman. I'm in the College of Arts and Sciences, and I've endorsed Isaac. And this question is actually for Isaac. During the questions asked, you briefly mentioned a scholarship for extracurriculars. Would you mind elaborating on that?
Sure. Well, I think we here at Vanderbilt have a culture of service, and I think it's something that's very strong and should be enhanced. So one point that Lucy and I, really thought was important was creating a scholarship fund, with VSG funding for students, either to take part in unpaid summer internships and, have some sort of stipend from VSG, or, in, service trips, whether that be ASB or MANA, or, a trip related to a service organization that maybe you wouldn't be able to do or wouldn't be able to attend on your own. We think that's going to enhance your student experience, and it's something important for us to do because so many people are involved in service here, and if there's a way for VSG to help create and enhance that culture of service, we should definitely be involved in that.
Thank you.
Thank you. One additional note, if you are on a candidate's campaign team, would you please refrain from asking them a question, allowing them sort of additional elaboration? I'm not saying he is on your campaign team, but just note it for future notice. Yeah. Thank you. Next question.
Hello, my name is Sid Sepper. I'm a junior in Arts and Sciences, studying political science and economics. I've endorsed Isaac, but I have the privilege of sort of knowing all three of these guys, had really good conversations about their campaigns, their platforms, all that good stuff. And on that note, I think my question for all three of you is, if you had to endorse one other person on this stage, who would it be and why?
So given the nature of the question, we'll hold responses to as short as possible. You have 30 seconds to elaborate on your favorite qualities in your opponents. 45, to be fair. So with that, we'll start with John and end with Isaac.
That's a clown question, bro. I'm just kidding. No, I think, to be honest, I can't really, say that because the only reason I'm running is because I really believe that I'm the best candidate for the job. So I really think that there are admirable qualities in both the other individuals sitting up here with me. I've been friends with Peter since freshman year, and I've gotten to know Isaac through VSG as well. And, I can't say really anything negative about them because they're good guys, but I know in my heart that I know that I am the best person to do this job. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer that question.
Peter.
Yeah, I think I'm going to follow JT's response there. I think out of fairness to all candidates, that's not really a fair question to sort of ask at this time. Certainly that's something that, I've encouraged the hustler to ask, post-primaries, but at this time, I don't really care to elaborate on that because, again, I think that I'm the best candidate for the job. I think that Kristen's the best vice presidential candidate for the job, and that our vision is unique and it's something that VSG has never really tried to do. So, I know Sid personally, but I'd love to answer that question post-primary or post-election when the time comes.
Isaac.
Yeah, I guess I'll just follow what you guys say.
Thank you for the evasive and politically calculated responses. I think we'll take one more question from the audience, if that's fine.
Hey guys, I'm Kern Vora. I'm a freshman, arts and science, math, econ double, and I'm endorsing JT's campaign. And I guess my question is for both Isaac and Peter. What? Can I not?
No questions.
Yeah, please. If you're on that, if you're on
Well,
the
I'm not
campaign-
asking it to JT. That was the stipulation.
Sorry.
Hi there, I'm Lawrence Waller. I'm a freshman in the College of Arts and Science, English, Spanish, and Computer Science triple. And my question...
Good luck to you.
And I have endorsed Isaac. My question for JT is, I'm in the Kung Fu Club, and it takes a lot of effort for us to raise the funds ourselves to bring the masters out to teach us at the rec center, like for semester seminars. So I was wondering what you would be doing to help these kinds of organizations, these smaller organizations.
Okay, as far as smaller organizations go, obviously, we have a process with ACFE to allocate funds. It's very unfortunate sometimes with smaller organizations to achieve more funds for that sort of thing. They'd be happy to apply to a VSG co-sponsorship. We'd love to, if you apply for a VSG co-sponsorship, give you the money to maybe get 1 or 2 lessons out of it. I don't know exactly how much the cost of that is, but VSG has a responsibility, a fiscal responsibility to make the most impact with the dollars that it spends. And unfortunately, there aren't unlimited funds sometimes, but there are avenues to get money from VSG. So thank you for your question.
Thank you. So that concludes the round of questioning. With that, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement to sort of address any points raised during the debate or to clarify things that have been said. So with that, we will start with Isaac and proceed from left to right as we did with opening statements. So go ahead.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think Lucy and I are really appreciative of it and are looking forward to this campaign and voting starting tomorrow. But one point I want to make is, I think there are 3 things that make, Lucy and I different. And, I think the first thing is we're a balanced ticket. Lucy and I represent very different segments of this campus and are representative of, a way that I think, the 2 other tickets are not. I think, Lucy being Greek, me being non-Greek, we represent the entirety of campus, and me being a guy and she being a girl, I think that's important as well. Secondly, I think we bring the right level of experience to the job. I've been involved in the legislative end of VSG. Lucy has been involved in the programming arm of VSG, but at the same time, we're not so entrenched in the current culture of VSG sort of isolating itself off from other student organizations or other parts of campus. We really want to seek out those relationships and ensure we're really actively serving students. And lastly, I think we're a ticket that wants to be held accountable. Just as you want your professors to tell you why you got a certain grade or, why you didn't do well on an assignment, I think you deserve to know what we're doing on your behalf and, that we're not promising these 10,000 things and not, ensuring and following through that they actually happen. So we really appreciate your time. We're happy to be here, and we're really looking forward to starting this campaign and voting tomorrow.
Thank you. John?
Again, I'll echo the sentiments of just the thanks for everyone that came out today. What I want to talk about is, a lot of, I guess, the questions kind of directed at me, obviously, and are dealing with, being entrenched in a culture of VSG. I want to say, I'm obviously not Mary Claire, I'm not Adam. Like, me and Jess have a unique vision of where we want to take this school, a unique platform of things that we want to get accomplished. And we have the experience and the knowledge, and since when, being that very experienced ticket and being a very well-rounded, very involved ticket, I think only enhances our ability to actually get things done once we were to get the job. We're not going to need to spend 3 months out of the 8 we have, figuring out how to do the job. We are very well equipped to start day one, making your campus experience much better. We really care and want to build relationships with student organizations on campus. We want to empower you, empower VU, and we think we bring a really fresh outlook to things, and we really hope you guys vote on Thursday and Friday, regardless of who you vote for. So thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Peter.
Again, want to again echo their sentiments. Thanks again to everybody for coming out. Kristen and I recognize that VSG is not completely broken. Certainly there are some positives that the organization has, and things that they do that are worthy. But ultimately, we're focused on uniting the community, and really in doing that, again, we're going to be representing the needs of the students so much more. We're going to be transforming the position of VSG to advocate for more than Lunchables and fruit roll-ups. Instead, we're going to be really pushing to empower students and connect you all to leaders. And that's what we're committed to. And then because of that, down the road when we look out long term, we're going to be able to secure the future of Vanderbilt and represent current students' interest long term, so that 5, 10, 15 years from now, Vanderbilt's still a great place to come back to, and it still has the Greek houses that you hung out at. It still has the organizations that you were involved in, because ultimately it's about making sure that Vanderbilt as a whole is making progress, but again, making progress in areas that you want us to. We want to hear what every leader on campus, what every student on campus has to say. And ultimately, if they come to us and say, we want free blue books during exam time, then we'll reach out and that's what we'll do. But ultimately, it's about prioritizing our needs. And right now, I don't think that the student leaders would say that that's the most important need. Instead, I think they would tell you that there's a variety of other issues in terms of, the all-comers policy, in terms of hazing, in terms of Greek life, that we need to really be approaching. And once we start thinking about those tough issues, which is really the role of student government, we can make a huge impact, not only on our campus, but in this Nashville community. And that's what a vote for Kristen and I represents.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates tonight for your performances. I'm sure you've helped everybody in the audience understand where you're coming from and things you hope to accomplish. Thank you to the audience, especially too. We put these events on for you guys so you guys can come out, so you guys can learn about the candidates. And it's really your dedication that makes these kind of events possible. One thing to note, also be sure to vote in the primaries this coming week. One thing to note is that, not to be overshadowed by the VSG elections, the Young Alumni Trustee elections are happening this week as well. In case you guys didn't know, that's voting for a member of the senior class to sit on the Board of Trust for the next 4 years. So not just VSG presidents, these guys are representing you in Vanderbilt's highest decision-making body. So please go out and vote this week. There are 3 candidates. Shameless plug, the Hustler has endorsed a candidate, which will be online later tonight. And so have other student organizations and leaders. So please go out and make an informed decision about that. That's important as well. But again, another round of applause for our wonderful VSG presidential candidates. And get out there and vote.
Guys, one more quick thing that Andre just mentioned, just a little bit more information. Primaries open at 8 a.m. on Thursday and close at noon on Friday. And the 2 highest vote getters will move on to the general elections on Monday and Tuesday. So just a little formal reminder about what window you have to vote for one of these 3 guys. But once again, thanks a lot for coming out, and we appreciate all y'all being here.